Welcome back to part 3 on getting a WebGL application written in Unity to communicate with a PHP script which allows you to read and write from a file that's sitting on the server. We're at the point now where we're going to build this out and test it through the browser. So I've still got my server running, as you can see here. I'm going to leave that going. But what I'm going to do is to build this. So now I'm in Unity. Let's go File, Build Settings. Make sure that your scene is set. Make sure that you're in a WebGL platform. If not, you will have to switch to it. And that's pretty much all we need to do. When I did do this the first time, there was an error that said in player settings I had to change. And if I just go across there, I'll just find it for you and show you which one it was. I think it was in other settings. Yeah, it was. It was this color space here, which was set to linear, and it would like you, and there's the error there, so it's back again. It would like you just to set it into gamma, and then that just makes that error go away. Now we're going to build and run. Now this takes a little bit of time, so I will speed up the video and get back to you. But first of all, let me show you where to put it. Build and run, you want to go into the folder where you've got your project. So there's our assets. There's my PHP folder. We're going to build it into that PHP folder just there. And let me just check I've got the right one. Yep. Okay, so I'm just calling it test app, which is not very creative, I know, but I'm going to put it under there, and then we just save it and it will go and do its thing. That's now built out, and I've got it running in Safari here. So the build and run option will open up your web browser and browse to the location of the file, which you'll see in this case says localhost 54376. Now, if you remember rightly, our port that we've got our PHP server is on 9000. If you run this, you will get an error when you try and read to that. So let me just show you that. Here we go. I'm going to press this, try and read to it. Now in Safari it's not easy to see these errors, but there is an option to get to the development section, and I'll just go to show web inspector. If you're using Chrome, it will have a developer option as well to bring up these debug windows and that. Now if we have a look through these errors that I've got, the one at the end is the one that we're causing, these ones here. The other ones I was getting is to do with the default Unity textures, which is probably going to go away if I bothered to put different textures on my button, but I haven't. So they're not stopping the functionality. But what is this other call here. So you can see I've got an origin from localhost 54376, which is this actual form. So this WebGL application here, trying to access localhost 9000 from unity.php. Now, it's giving us a cannot load, error, access control, allow origin, which is basically saying that the script or the application that's trying to access the PHP, they're not in the same location. So we're not going to let you do it, which is quite annoying. But that's okay. So we can fix that because we know where we have written this file out to relative to our PHP server, which is on localhost 9000. So if we change our URL up here and go 9000, and then it's in something called test app because it's in a subdirectory. And if we just have a quick look and remind ourselves of that location, here's my PHP and there's my PHP script. Here's the test app build in here. So this is the URL, localhost / test app, which is this folder, and then another / and it will just pick up index.html, although you could type index.html on the end here. So localhost 9000 is this PHP folder, and then you have to go down through the directories to find the right one. So now if I hit enter on that, I'll be loading the one that is going through my PHP server, which means that my PHP script and now this particular WebGL application are both running on the same server and the same port, so localhost 9000. Now, of course, I've got these errors from that texture image, which we're not worrying about. If I hit send information to file here, it will now run the server. And I just saw, but you didn't because it was off the screen, is that it's now down here in the calls onto the server. You can see that any new files you also put into that server folder come up in your, I guess your server log that's coming out here. You can see it getting filled up. But anyway, this is it being called here. And then if we go back into our browser and we have a look at the logs, we might be lucky enough to see the message that came back from the PHP, and there it is there. So message successful, sent, field 1, Joe blogs, field 2, etc. So this was the same message we were getting back through the console inside of the editor. So we now know that this method works from a website to the PHP on the same website, and then sending a message back. Now, that also means that we're pretty confident that if we just keep testing and making modifications in the editor with our PHP, we won't need to keep building it out all of the time to test every little bit of extra functionality that we add in. Right, let's go back, and what we're going to do is add in functionality to read stuff out of the file. So we've got Textfile that puts stuff into the file. We're now going to add a new button to get stuff out of the file and a new method for that. So the button is going to sit below the other one, and it's going to say get information from file. At that point, when you click on it, it's going to run this get text from file method, which we're yet to write, but is very, very similar to send text to file. So let's go and add that. It's going to be a Ienumerator. And it looks like this here. Again, I'm setting a bool for successful. We're then creating a form. Now, in this case, we're just requesting information, so we don't need to have any fields. There's no need to have any fields. If it runs this script, then the script's just going to return information to us, regardless of any post fields that go through. Now, I've written a different one for this PHP-wise. So this one's called toUnity.php. So it's just going to call toUnity.php and then sit around and wait for it to return a value, at which time we've got our error. Testing again, do nothing. Otherwise, if we end up getting a message back, we're going to print it up on the screen. Now, this toUnity is just going to read everything out of the data file it has and send it straight back to our Unity application for us to read on the console. So that's the write to file code. Let's just save that, and then we can write our PHP file. Now in this case, the toUnity.php file is ridiculously simple. All it's doing is opening the file, data.txt. We called it for reading, so that's an R. It's then grabbing all of the information in the file, which is what fread does. So it's a file read. Give it the file pointer, tell it the size of the data that you want to get out of the file, which happens to be the entire amount of data that's sitting in there, and then close the file. This echo sends it back to our code, which then picks it up with this debug log here. So if we save that, and we just save this and go back to Unity, and we don't need to build it out. Remember, we can just test it from in here. Our server's still running. When we press play, we got get information from file. So if I just click on that, you can see down in the console the information I'm getting back from my file. So it's got Joe Blogs data in there 4 times because I've pressed that send to file 4 times. And remember, we're appending, so there's 4. If we go back and actually send another line, so it's 1, 2, okay, we've sent 2 lines through, get information, we're now going to find that there's 6 Joe Blogses in that file, which is fine, because there is, we've put them in there because of that append. Now, what you can do, stop playing, is that if you don't want to have two PHP files, one that is putting in a file and one that's getting out of a file, you could send through a parameter to the PHP script saying what you want it to do, and then have an if statement in there. So let's have a quick look at dummying that up and see if we can get it to work without too much heartache. So we've got a get text from file. What we're going to do here is we still need these two different methods, but what I'm going to use is from Unity PHP, and I will call that in both cases here. Okay, now if we do send text to file, remember that our fields in our script will actually have values in them. So we'll have, this will be text 1, text 2, and text 3. In this case down here, when we call that script, we're not sending anything through. So there's nothing on the form, which means that text 1 will be empty. Just save that, switch over to from Unity. Remember, if text 1 is empty, then it goes and does this bit here. But there's no reason why this bit here can't be the section that gets stuff from the file instead of putting stuff in the file. So we can grab hold of this code, and I'm just going to copy that, go back to here, and instead of saying that we failed, we'll just say, okay, we received a request to get stuff out of the file rather than put stuff in. So there we go. Okay, so fingers crossed, everything's saved. Let's go one more check. We've got from Unity there, from Unity there. We'll go back into here. We'll press play. Now when we send information through, we get our sent message. When we get information, we get it, and we've used one PHP script. So when you're more confident with your PHP and you want to have some sort of different flow of logic in there with if statements and that, you can use one PHP file. If you've got a lot of different functions you want to carry out and it makes more sense to you to use separate PHP files, then that is fine as well. Right, so I hope that's given you some insight over these last 3 videos as to how you're going to get a WebGL application that you've written in Unity to be able to talk to a text file that you can then store information in and then get information out of. The other extension is that if you know MySQL, you can build your own databases, and then you still have to ask the PHP script to then query and access the MySQL database. So this is just all the hooks that you need between the Unity WebGL app running in a browser and your PHP that's sitting on the server with it. Oh, that's it. So I hope you enjoyed these tutorials and that they help you sort out your file loading and saving with Unity WebGL. Thanks for watching. Please support the development of more superb online learning content by subscribing, and as always, visit holistic3d.com to learn more about awesome games development books and tutorials.